Okay. This is not going live. Why not? It's so annoying. I can't get it to work. I fucking can't. I can't get it to go live. I'm gonna have to go the way I've done. Hey, sweetie. I haven't gone live yet. It's been one of those days. I'm going live now, but of course I can't get. Hello, everybody. We are live. Hang on, I've got an awesome new microphone here. I don't know if you can see it. Well, it's not new. I use it on my podcast, but I've decided to connect it up to my lives, hoping it will improve my sound. Let me just pull that around a bit. Okay, so we are live for my Friday live Q&A. So I'm a little bit late today. I've just had other stuff going on with clients and things that have held me up a bit today, and a couple of software issues. So this is your opportunity to ask me any question that you would like to ask me about relationship issues, anything that's going on in your life, anything that I can help you with. I'm just checking to make sure that you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, okay. You can. We are live. All right, perfect. So this is your opportunity to ask me any questions that you may have around life, relationships. Obviously, if you're in Melbourne, this is our first day of lockdown, of another, our fourth lockdown, another 7 days of fairly strict lockdown, which I know is triggering for people and I know has been problematic in the relationship space. So, I know when there is a lot of uncertainty, people get very concerned and worried and they come from a place of fear, and people who are feeling fear tend to project that out onto the people around them. So if you're in a situation like that where you're feeling the impact of being in lockdown, I'm happy to talk about that and address it, and I will kind of have a few more conversations around that today. If you've got some other question because you're somewhere else in the world and you're not locked down, or somewhere else in Australia and you're not locked down, this is your opportunity to ask me a question. I have had a couple of questions emailed into me in advance, so I will make sure I answer those whilst I'm on today. But whilst I'm here, if you are live and you want to ask me a question, feel free to do so. Now, one of the things that, whilst I'm waiting for those to come through, and I'm just checking that people can hear me okay, one of the things that I really want to talk about today is, when it comes to our relationships, there's a lot of labels put on things, all right? A lot of labels. And I think that is really problematic, okay? So people will get diagnosed with abandonment issues, or with attachment disorder issues, or some sort of emotional issue. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a time and place for those things, but these things have come up a lot with the students in my Relatable program this week, and when I was running my live call last Wednesday with them, this was a really big topic of conversation. And I just want to say, we often think that when we give something a label, that makes it easier to deal with, but what it actually does is have you then feel like you have to get over that label in order to be okay, and it becomes another roadblock or another part of the weeds that people then feel like they have to get over, deal with, manage in order to move to the next step. I often have people come to me and say that they're in a relationship with a narcissist, for example, and whilst narcissism is out there in the world and it does exist, not everybody is a narcissist, or not every one of those cases is actually the case of a narcissist. It's just two people who are so shut down, where there's no goodwill, where they haven't learned how to build a history of dealing with conflict well, who then tend to think more about the me than they do about the we. And they don't understand how to overcome that, change it, and create something different for themselves. Okay. So I often find that, if you feel that you are in a relationship with a narcissist, and you may well be, for example, if without having a proper diagnosis of that, or without understanding the ins and outs of something, that can then be the roadblock between you and connecting with that person, because you're then looking for evidence to support the label. Right? And this is what we do all the time. We look for evidence to support the label. We look for evidence to support our belief. We look for evidence to support our thinking. And without actually questioning those things, questioning the label, questioning our thinking, questioning our beliefs, which is what a belief is, it's just thought. But, right, we don't question any of that. We accept that as true, and then don't understand that everything we see is a reflection of the lens with which we are accepting as truth. And this is very, very problematic in the relationship space. Very problematic. And in fact, it's the missing link between you and experience, is understanding and seeing that. And I think, often when I'm working with people, and or a couple, or anyone in any kind of situation, they feel that this label needs to be addressed in order for them to be okay. And that is not necessarily always the case. And in quite honestly, quite often, the label creates more issues, more problems, more complication than what the solution actually is. Okay, it actually creates more of a roadblock. There is a simpler, easier way to show up, to handle things, to deal with other people's emotional reactions, to have a connected relationship where you feel comfortable and confident in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Right? I'm more interested in building that up for someone where they feel confident, where they feel like they can handle whatever comes their way, than I am in helping someone deal with a label. Okay, because we have this extraordinary capacity as human beings that is untapped in many people, because people don't know how to tap into it. People don't know where to look. And what I mean by an extraordinary capacity is we have an extraordinary capacity to get over things, to come from a completely different space where it's not about you reacting from a place of being triggered to what is, where you bring something completely different to the table. Now, I see this all the time in my work. I see this all the time with the students in my relatable program, where they actually realize what is possible and that they can show up completely differently. They do not have to show up in a place of reaction to what is. Okay, they can actually show up where it's not about reacting to what is, where it's about bringing something completely different to the table. And I know when people hear this for the first time, they're very skeptical. They think that I've got rose-colored glasses on, that I'm in la la land, that I don't really know what I'm talking about. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the skepticism. I appreciate all of that. I understand there's a lot of misinformation flying around out there. But there is something that I know to be fundamentally true about people, about human beings, not men and women, not personality types, not labels. Okay, something that goes beyond those things, something that is true, that is true irrespective of those things. Right? This is what I know about people, and so when I speak to that with my clients, when I speak to that, not to the label, not to the personality, not to the where they think they're broken, where they think they're missing something, I don't speak to that. I speak to something else. And when I speak to something else, it touches something deeply in a person. That person starts to wake up to something else, not, oh, I'm this type of person, or I'm this label, or I'm broken, or I'm this. It's like, no. You're none of those things. You just haven't seen it yet. Now, I see it when I look at you, and I'm going to speak to that, and I'm going to show you how to see that in you. And then once you've seen that, now let's come back and have a look at those things and see how differently they look for you. See how calmer you feel within yourself, how much more bandwidth you have to deal with someone else's emotionality, to deal with someone else's asking something of you that you're frightened of. Your ability to get over things, your ability to be present and show up in the moment. People think that the only way we can do that is through deep meditation or yoga. And I'm not saying those things aren't, of course, they're wonderful, wonderful things. But deep meditation and yoga is not for everybody. Okay? It isn't. And it's okay if it's not your thing. There is a whole other way where you can bring that to the table without having to do that if you don't want to. Now, again, I'm a huge advocate of those things. I think they're fantastic, but I also appreciate they're not for everybody. Okay? I'm really interested in speaking to something that is true for everybody. I'm interested in pointing you in a direction so that you get in touch with something that's true for you. And then you can see that in the people around you. There is a whole other way in which we can show up to one another that's not based on labels, it's not based on personality, that's not based on past, that's not based on what's missing, that's not based on what's broken. There's a whole other way. And that is what I have dedicated my life, my work, my everything to teaching people, because everybody has this capacity. Everybody. It does not matter who you are, what your past is, what your upbringing is. It doesn't matter. Everybody is capable of that. And this is what my clients see and discover time and time and time again. The students in my relatable program discover, and all of a sudden they feel lighter, freer, more at ease. They feel like they've got more bandwidth, more room. Bandwidth is huge. Most relationships break down to a lack of bandwidth issue, which then looks like a problem in differences, but it's actually a lack of bandwidth. When you are overthinking, when you are in constant reaction to the world, when you are adjusting to this person, this situation, this conversation, when you're in constant adjustment to that, it's exhausting. It's an exhausting way to live your life. And all it does is have you overthink, lower your bandwidth. And then guess what? When something doesn't go your way, you've got no bandwidth, no room. No bandwidth equals no choice. When you've got no choice, it's just boom, full-blown reaction, which is not what you wanted, which you will then walk away feeling ashamed of, and you will then be living in the feeling and the experience of that until you pop out the other side of it, right? And in the meantime, we've cut a swathe of destruction around us. I know there are a lot of people out there who have a very, very high tolerance for overthinking, for having no bandwidth, for feeling angry and not realizing that that's how they show up most of the time. And I know this because that was me, right? That was me. And that's where many of my clients are when they come to me. And they don't realize, right? They think they're angry because of what's happened here, what's happened last week, what happened in the past, what happened this morning, what happened 2 seconds before they started speaking to me. They think that's why they're angry. And it's like, no, you're angry because you have a lack of bandwidth, because you are chronically overthinking. You have a very high tolerance for being in a space of upset, frustration, or what I would call emotional insecurity. Now, we all have moments and times where we feel emotionally insecure. Everybody does. Okay, so don't see this as a problem. And it's just a place that we all go to and we get to, but people don't know how to factor that in. You've got to know how to factor it in, right? Just like I've got to factor in the wind if I want to go paddleboarding or I want to do anything, right? I've got to factor stuff in and then adjust to what is there instead of constantly in resistance to it. Hang on, I'm just looking at a question here. Hi, Cecily. Hey, Fiona. Why is it that we often feel it is okay to not talk to or have contact or get an answer back from a friend for hours, days, and not get upset? But it's not okay if the same thing happens with their partner. I'm not sure if I understand your question, Cecilia. Hang on, let me just read that. Why is it that we often feel it is okay to not talk to or have contact or get an answer back from a friend for hours, days, and not get upset? I'm sorry. I actually don't know. Can you rephrase that, honey? I'm not sure. Is that the question that you emailed me earlier, just said in a different way? Because I'm not sure that I understand what your question is. It's not okay to have contact or get upset, but it's not okay if the same thing happens with their partner. Can you say something about that? I'm sorry, Cecilia, you'll have to reword that for me. I'm not quite understanding that. Okay, so this is a reflection of the question you asked me before. So the question that Cecilia asked me before, and I'm just going to bring it up on my phone, was, hang on. The question was, if you start dating a person who doesn't answer back for over 24 hours and so on, and my experience is that I don't really like that, I don't want that in a new relationship, am I not the understanding person then? How can I come from goodwill and have a good flavor in me and say that it's not me, that it's not for me, when that person blames me for being insecure and controlling? Look, I guess there's a couple of things, Cecily. Number one of the things that's really important to see is that our reality is made up. It really is. So you're saying it doesn't work for you for no one to respond to you for 24 hours. The other person's reality of that is completely different. Neither one is right or wrong, right? It's just multiple realities. One of the things we've got to see, and this is hugely problematic in relationships, is that people think their reality of something is the reality. They think it's the only reality, right? They do. And so then they get very angry. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, honey, but people get very angry or argumentative or defensive or positional about that reality. And one of the things you've got to understand, right, and this is why I talk about this in my ebook. One of the reasons why people get so emotionally upset is because they don't have an understanding of separate realities. They don't know, and I talk about this in my program Relatable. They've got no idea. They just presume that everyone has the exact same reality that they do. And that is actually impossible. No two people have the same reality about anything. right? They don't. No two people have the same reality about anything. And so when you're getting upset with someone, you're presuming that they see the world the way you do. And so it doesn't make sense to you that they're not responding the way you want them to. But they're not seeing what you see. They're not seeing the world that you see, right? They're just not. This is a really important thing that people need to understand, and why I speak about it so often in my program, because people struggle with this. They think that everybody sees the world the way they do. So that's the first thing. The other thing that you want to understand is that nothing is set in stone. And if something matters to you, you want to make sure you're in a good feeling when you talk about it, Cecilia. If you're in an upset feeling, right, you are not in the best frame of mind to have that conversation. The feeling is telling you that. The feeling is telling you that your state of mind is not great. Right. So, we misuse and misunderstand the role of feelings in our lives. Again, really big thing that I teach in Relatable. You've got to understand the way feelings work, and then factor that in. So if you want to speak about something that's not working for you, the onus is on you to be in a neutral place about that. The onus is on you to be in a place of calm around that, because when you are, then you can start to be curious, right? You can be curious. You can bring curiosity to the table. So if I'm telling someone, hey, I don't like it if you don't respond to a text message, or I get uncomfortable, and they say you're being insecure and controlling, I'm going to be really curious about that. I'll go, oh, okay, how come in your mind, how come it looks like that's what I'm being with you? Like, I would really like to know how that shows up for you, because what am I trying to do in that moment? I'm trying to understand their reality, because I know fundamentally no two people have the same reality about anything. So there's no point me getting angry and saying, no, I'm not. How dare you say that to me, da, 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 because all I'm doing is defending a reality that they can't see. And this is why people often do this, okay? Two separate realities doing this. Feels like one of you's in China and one of you's in Switzerland. It feels like you're on opposite ends of the planet. So it's very, very important, okay, that you understand how to navigate your humanness, which is the fundamental first thing I teach everybody, private clients in my online program, because this is the thing that nobody factors in, and this flavors everything. And often when people have been given a label, it's just simply because they haven't been taught to navigate this. And once they navigate that, the label no longer applies. I find that all the time. Okay. So this is a fundamental piece that we need to know. So once you understand that, it enables you to show up from a place of neutrality. It enables you to show up from a place of calm and peace of mind, without trying to defend and project your reality onto somebody else. Because you have the understanding that people live in separate realities. You have the understanding of how to navigate your humanness, and you're able to show up in a way where you've been curiosity in something else. And so when you do that, you bring a completely different flavor. So when we show up from a place of that doesn't work with me, and we're showing from a place of upset, we probably are being controlling, right? Because we're coming from a place of you're wrong and I'm right. Whether we know it or not, whether the words aren't a reflection, that's what we're doing. Okay? The minute you do that, the other person is going to feel like you're controlling them. The minute you do that, the other person is going to feel, right, that you're what was the word you said? That you are being insecure, because you are coming from a place of insecurity. Like, if you're coming from upset, you are coming from a place of insecurity. That's just a fact, okay? Whether you agree with it or not, that's what you're doing, okay? And then from upset, we do project our reality onto someone. We come from judgment. Our tone is off. We're not very good at listening. We're not looking to understand someone else's reality. And boom, in that moment, you probably are coming across as controlling and insecure. And so you've got to be able to try things on, right? You've got to be able to try things on. You've got to be able to bring curiosity to the table. This is a huge thing missing in our relationships, because we are projecting our fear onto people. We are judging. We are controlling. We are defending our position. This is what we're doing. We're not creating goodwill. We're not valuing that over our insecurities. We lead with our insecurities. And in the moment that you do that, you have to understand what you're saying to the other person is, my insecurities are more important to me than you. Even if that's not your intention, that's the message that you're conveying. Right? That's the message that you're conveying. And then, right, when you do that, people start thinking about the me, they stop thinking about the we. Okay? And then in that position, nobody wants to do anything for anybody. So in that position, the other person is more likely to dig their heels in and say, I'll send you a text message whenever I want. If I want to message you in 24 hours or 48 hours, too bad. Get over it. Right? This is what people start doing. They dig their heels in and they start focusing on themselves, and they don't have the capacity to listen or take on board anyone else's reality. Okay, so when you know how to navigate your humanness, and honestly, guys, it is so, so, so important. I wish we were taught this in primary school, but we're not. You're left with being in reaction to everything. And what you're not realizing is it's not that you're in reaction to everything, it's that everything is in reaction to you. Everything is in reaction to you. And a lot of people can't see that. They think they are in reaction to the world, but no. The world is not a certain way. The world is constantly in reaction to you. Now, when you deeply, deeply see that, everything changes. And I mean everything. Your reality, the way you show up. It doesn't make sense to be so angry. It doesn't make sense to be so judgmental. You are way more expansive in your thinking. You are far more comfortable being uncomfortable. Right? Now, this is a huge problem in relationships. People do not feel comfortable being uncomfortable. And when we feel, when we're not comfortable with being uncomfortable, we get really frightened of the feeling we're in, and then we just project it. We do. We project it. We project fear everywhere we go. And we wonder why people shut down and don't want to talk to us. We wonder why people don't want to text us or return a phone call. You know, as I try and explain to people, and you know, it's one of those things that you have to experience for yourself. You know, you lead with your energy far, far more. That's way ahead of you than your words. Okay. And so your energy causes far more impact than anything you have to say, way before you say it, or even if you don't say it. Okay. It creates far, far more impact. And this is hugely, hugely problematic. When people get to a stage where they understand where their well-being comes from, when they are completely okay with being uncomfortable, you can handle someone else's moods and reactions very, very differently, very calmly. You don't meet them with fear. You don't shrink, you expand. And in fact, it stops making sense to meet something with fear. And of course, when we meet something with fear, what do? We retract and we project. And we can't see that we're doing that because it looks justified to us. It looks like an of course. It looks like fair enough, right? Because we think we are reacting to the way the world is. And what we don't understand, what we do not understand, and this is life-changing for people, life-changing, is that the world is in reaction to us. Now, when you don't understand that, you do not develop the capacity to understand what flavor you're bringing, what energy you're bringing. You are externally focused the whole time, and then you are just projecting because you feel justified, you feel self-righteous. You continually look out here for evidence, which just fuels the fire. And it's when people are in a constant state of doing that they get labeled with stuff. Oh, you're a narcissist. You've got this disorder, that disorder, right? No, not necessarily. Let's just see what that person sees when they understand how to navigate their own human experience, right? Because every single one of my clients, when they see this, that changes dramatically. dramatically and very quickly. Why? Because it no longer makes sense to project stuff out into the world. It no longer makes sense. And in fact, you stop looking out here to justify yourself. You start looking somewhere completely different. And when you do that, you bring a lot more understanding, a lot more compassion, a lot more calm. You feel clearer and stronger within yourself. So instead of reacting with fear, you bring curiosity. You bring understanding. You don't take things so personally. Your listening goes to a completely different level. You know, I teach listening is in module 4 of Relatable, and every single person who does it just says, oh my God, Fiona, my goodness, I thought I was a good listener. I'm not listening at all. I'm just not. I can't believe that. I always prided myself on being a good listener, but what you've just pointed out here has really hit home for me that I wasn't listening to anything. I wasn't listening. Now, you know, there is a saying out there, and it's not mine. I wish it was. I can't remember who said it now, that listening is the unsung hero of connection. Okay? And it is. People are terrible listeners. Now, one of the reasons why we are such terrible listeners is because we're looking out here to justify our position. Okay? And whenever you do that, you're not listening to anything because you're evidence gathering. Okay? And as soon as you see a piece of evidence that supports your position, boom, all you're doing is waiting for a chance to speak so you can rebut. But you're not actually listening. You're not trying on what the other person is saying. And, you know, many people think that agreeing is a prerequisite for listening. You don't need to agree with what another person's saying in order to listen. That one has nothing to do with the other. It really does not. One has nothing to do with the other. So, Cecily, I hope that has answered your question. And thanks, Don. Perception is misleading. Absolutely, it is. It is. You have to be prepared, right, to question your reality often. Not from a place of franticness, from worry, not from that place, right? But you've got to understand your reality is very unreliable in many, many ways. Okay? Very. Especially when you're upset. It's like you're standing in front of a amusement park at one of those fun mirrors that distort and generalize things and make you look this wide and this tall. Okay? You can't trust your reality then. You can't. And you have to know when you are in an unemotionally intelligent frame of mind. And we all sit in unintelligent frames of mind, emotionally unintelligent frames of mind. That's just a human being thing. And it doesn't matter how much work you do on yourself, all right? That's just as normal and natural as the weather, okay? You just got to know when to factor it in, right? You got to know when to factor it in. People don't factor that in at all. Not at all. They do not factor that in. And this is why they cut a swathe of destruction around them. And it's not because they're a narcissist or they've got all these labels. It's because they don't know how to factor that in. I am always amazed when people know how to factor something like that in, how differently, right? How differently everything begins to look for them very, very quickly. How much calmer, lighter, and easier they are able to deal with their own and someone else's emotional reactions. How much calmer, easier, and lighter it is to deal with differences. Okay. How much easier it is to deal with a conversation that goes south. Okay. See, when we are outwardly focused and we are evidence gathering, when you are doing that, and I meet people who come across my path all the time where that is all that they do and they don't realize they're even doing it, right? No idea that they're even doing that. So, you know, you can't change what you can't see. So awareness of how you create your reality and navigating your humanness is essential in order for you to be able to see this so that you can even begin to change it, right? So a lot of people have no idea that they're doing that. But when you are doing that, and I've got to say, you might be sitting there going, oh, I don't do that, but my partner does. If that's you, I'm telling you that you do it. Everybody does it. Okay, everybody. This is This is something that's unbelievably powerful when people see it. Unbelievably powerful. Just that alone shifts things dramatically. Okay. But when you're doing that, you really only have two options on how you want to show up to something or how you can. And this is what you see in relationships. It's very, very common. One person will become very, very controlling. One person will become very, very controlling, and they will want to control everything out here. Okay. And when it doesn't work out so well, they'll just get super angry. They'll lose their temper. They'll get reactionary. They'll yell. They'll project. Meanwhile, the other person shuts down, disappears and shuts down and gets very, very quiet. So they withdraw. So you've got one person that goes this way and one person that goes this way. Very, very common in relationships where one of you does, you're doing this. One's this way, one's that way. Super, super, super common. Okay. And you will both justify that, your choice, whether you're the one that does this or you're the one that projects out here like this. And you'll say, it'll be something like this. Oh my God, I can't believe. Are you not going to talk to me now? You're not going to speak. Oh, so we're not even talking. You're just going to do your normal thing, shut down and walk away. Really? Is that what you're going to do? Honestly, that's what this person who's yelling and upset's doing, right? You know what? I can't handle the way you do that. It's pathetic. We never ever get to talk to anything. We never work anything out. At least I'm actually saying something. At least I am trying to communicate. You don't even try. I can't believe you, right? It'll be something along those lines, okay? Meanwhile, the other person's sitting there thinking, oh my God, you always lose it? I can't stand it. At least I don't yell and scream and call and say ugly, nasty things that can't be taken back. At least I am sitting here and I am trying my best not to say those things. So at least I'm the better person here because I am not saying such horrible things. I am not yelling. I am not screaming. Now, what you both have to understand in that position, neither one of you is right, neither one of you is wrong, but your frailties have come out and you've just gone to your usual positions. And you feel more justified here and this person feels more justified there. And so you just bunker down. And in that position of justification, this person's judging this person's judging this person, right? Now, what is it that we fear most in life? What do we fear most in life? Being judged, right? This is why public speaking is, for many people, a fear worse than death. Being judged. Okay? This is what happens. And yes, people judge each other. But you should see some of the nasty comments on my Facebook ads. It's hilarious. People who don't know me at all, have never purchased anything from me or listened to me at all. It's mind-boggling, right? But, there are an awful lot of, I just call that someone who's very much asleep. There's a lot of people who just haven't woken up yet. And so you do, this is what people do. But in relationships, when we do that, you are just being each other's mirror, even though you're showing up in a different way, but you are mirroring the same thing. You're doing the same thing to each other. You're both justifying your position. You're both feeling self-righteous, and you both believe the other one is wrong. And you both believe the other one should be doing things your way. Okay? Same. This is how you are a mirror. People mirror each other all the time. Now, until one of you shifts that judgment, blame, accusing kind of space, you will continue to be each other's mirror. Okay? You will. This is where communication breaks down, where there's no goodwill, where people stop taking care of one another, etc., and you just get focused on self, and that's understandable because it doesn't feel good to be around the other person. Why would you? Hi Fiona, my partner and I have been going through some really tough times over the past year or so. We don't communicate well these days, and I've suggested that we get help either online or with counselling. I've even suggested doing a relatable course, but can't get her to jump in with me. She says it's over and can't be fixed. Look, Sean, first thing I want to say is, even if she won't do it, I highly recommend that you do it. There are many people in my relatable program who are the only ones doing it and creating amazing changes with the people around them because they are showing up differently. Okay, very differently. So if she won't do it, honestly, don't worry about that. You just do it, because I'm amazed when one person changes, the impact it has on the other person is deeply, deeply profound, and people get incredibly curious, right? People get incredibly curious and they're like, you've changed. Like, you've changed. What's going on? They calm down, they feel safer, and they relax. I have seen, honestly, and I don't say this because for any other reason than I really want you to see what's possible. When you change your energy and the flavor that you bring, the impact on the other person is profound. Profound. I wish I could show you how profound. Do you know how many people come to me and they're either literally about to get divorced, or they've got divorce papers that they're about to sign, and then one of them says, hang on, even if we don't work out, I don't want to show up this way to my kids. We've got to co-parent. We've got to work things out. I want to show up differently in the world, right? Someone makes that choice. And they're like, I just want to be better. I want to know how to do this stuff so that whatever happens moving forward, I can show up differently. They make that choice and they learn this stuff. They show up differently. And I've seen more divorces stop, right? Where the other person is saying, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. I've seen people who've been in the throes of a hideous divorce, and there's been accusations and mudslinging and kids are in the middle of it, calm down because one person has learnt this, and they're able to move forward and co-parent and be friendly and go on holidays to dinner and have dinner with each other. Yes, it happens because one of you has changed. One of you has shifted. It only takes one. So if you are in a situation where the other person's not interested, don't let that stop you. You be the one to create the change. And you know what? This conversation is one of the greatest gifts you'll ever bring to your life. I still say this to I believe this to be true from me, right? I'm so grateful that I have this understanding in my life. I'm so grateful. It's literally the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And I want everybody to have it. Because I know, right? I know this is what happens. You feel good about you. You feel calmer, clearer, more expansive. You feel like you can handle more stuff. You stop overthinking. You stop ruminating. And you stop projecting. You stop sneezing all over people, right? I talk about this in Relatable. You stop sneezing all over the people that you care about, okay? You show up differently. The impact on everything and everyone around you is unbelievably profound. And not only that, right? The impact on you, right? It's extraordinary. I've seen people have deeper relationships with their children, and they do the program not even realizing that was even something that they needed. I've seen people feel clearer, calmer, and stronger in themselves, able to come from a place of honoring their own truth in a way they were never able to before. People who are in tune, so that they're in flow. They've got better ideas. They feel more resourceful, way more resilient. I mean, isn't this something that you want in your life? And the knowing of all of that has you show up completely differently to the people around you. And it's so subtle because it's organic and natural and beautiful. You're not fighting against yourself, right? You're not constantly in resistance to what is, which is how so many people lives, and it's exhausting, okay? Absolutely exhausting. You start showing up in a completely different way, and it feels natural and easy. And this is why I call it easy, effortless change. And then from there, everything becomes easier to navigate. Because, as I talk about, when it comes to relationships, there's 3 areas, right? There's your relationship with you, your relationship with the world, and your relationship with others. And it's these 3 areas that profoundly change. So people get better results at work, right? Because they're showing up differently to the world. They have they're far more trusting, and they have a far greater sense of faith in life. How many people have lost faith in life and shut down and are reactionary and limited in their capacity to deal with change, to deal with another person, who need everything to be the same all the time? That is a person who is asleep to what's possible, who is disconnected, right? And they're miserable and they don't even know it. That's survival mode, right? When you are in survival mode, you're not fun to be around. It's just a fact of life. You're not. You're not fun for your kids. You're not fun for your partner. And you're not fun for you. You don't know what else is available to you. And you think you need massive things to change in your life for you to be okay. And that's not true. right? But that's how it looks when you're in survival mode. It looks like everything needs to change. It's like, no, you just need to know how to navigate this, and then that will change, because that is a reflection of this, always. That's just how it works. Okay? So if you're listening to this and you're in a situation where your partner is not interested, don't let that stop you. Right? It shouldn't be based on what they are or aren't doing. That's just you being in reaction to that, right? Which is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like you have to make a choice for you, right? You choose for you what you want to create, what you want to bring to the world, right? And you will learn how to do that in a way where you feel empowered, where you are in flow, where it feels easy, where you feel good, where you bring goodwill to others, where you get over things quickly. You don't take on board stuff that doesn't belong to you. And you don't project things out into the world that don't belong to others, right? Just that alone is life-changing. And it's life-changing for everybody, right? For everybody. Ty John, learn from family, from parents. Yeah, it is. But but I want you to know it's easy for it to change. You don't have to go rummaging back into the past. You don't have to go changing everything, right? You really don't need to do all of that stuff. There's an easier way to move through that. Oh, hey Tamara, how are you, honey? So great to hear you speak from such a deep truth. Thank you for the great work. Oh, thank you, darling. It's lovely of you to say. Thank you. Joanna, you're laughing. Okay, not sure if you're laughing at me or something else. If you want to elaborate, feel free. Okay, so we're almost at the end of our time. If anybody has any more questions, like I said, I will put the link to Relatable down below. That is the most, this is where I teach this step by step. And the conversations that we're having in the private Facebook group and on the group calls are profound and beautiful and magical, and people can't believe it. I just had a lady join Relatable recently, about a week ago, and she said, I've been in therapy for 5 years, and I've learned more in 1 week here than I have in 5 years. So if you're not sure, jump in. You've got 14 days to try it out. And if in 14 days, and I've never refunded anyone, if you're not sure, you've got 14 days to give it a go. But I promise you what you will learn in those 14 days, and the program is a 7-week program, will be enough to change everything that you see. I promise you. We're looking in a very, very different direction. Joanna, I can relate to this so much. Okay, cool. A lot of people say that they can, Joanna. A lot of people say that they can. This is where you start to see how common these things are, right? They're so common, because you have to understand, even if you're in a relationship now that isn't working or isn't going to work out, you still will have to deal with all of this stuff, just in a different form, with someone else. You still have to be able to deal with other people's emotional reactions, right? You still have to know how to deal with yours. You have to know how to deal with differences, right? You got to know how to deal with separate realities. This is just a fact of life of being in relationship, right? This is why what I teach in Relatable, you can take into any and every relationship in your life. Because whatever relationship you're in, whether it's parents, whether it's colleagues, whether it's friends, whether it's family members, whether it's you, these are all what you learn here, you take everywhere you go. Okay? Okay, so I will be back on for a Friday Live next week. Generally, I do them at 1 o'clock. I was very late today. I was an hour late, but generally they're at 1 o'clock. If you have a question, you can email it to me, hello@fionalukis.com.au. Or if you want to join Relatable, we'd love to have you. I've got students all over the world, US, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, Australia, Norway, doing Relatable. So, and I run calls that are at a time zone for you. If you're in the USA and Canada, I run them at 10 a.m. I also do calls on a Wednesday night at 7:30 for people in Australia, the UK, and New Zealand. So there's options there for you to join a live call. All calls are recorded and sent out. hey, Don, how to deal with emotions were never shown any as a kid. The great thing is, Don, right, whether you were shown how to deal with this or not, we are built in to do this stuff well. So you just, as soon as I show you what is your natural capacity, which is what I teach in Relatable, then it becomes easy. Doesn't matter if you weren't shown it as a kid, Don, because it's something that's already built in. Okay, honestly, it's something that's built in. And once you get back in touch with that, you realize that it's not something that you need to learn. It's something that you already know. You just forgot. Okay. Sean, I've been changing over the last 6 months or so, engaging in meditation, staying calmer in conversation, fitter, giving up smoking. Good for you. Gotten a better job, spending more quality time with kids, but she can't see the change. Sure. Okay. Well, good for you, Sean. That's awesome. I still think that, and it's great that you're doing that. I still think there's another level to that. And that's the level is the energy that you bring when you're sitting with her and she is feeling insecure and she is feeling fearful. There's a completely different energy that you can bring to that will touch her and impact her a lot more than anything that you actually say. But good for you. Good for you. I'm awesome. That's fantastic. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for your comments and your questions. I will see you next Friday. Ciao.